Welcome, guys, to another episode of Price Targets. I'm gonna start the stream soon. We got a lot of interesting things to talk about, and we'll think the most interesting thing that happens is this week is the war ending. And the last time we spoke about that, we had a good narrative around equities and oil. And unfortunately, Bitcoin didn't really kind of follow track on the price expectations there. Um, Obviously, Sailor selling kind of spooked a bunch of people. Mick is very quiet. All right. Let's see if we can up that a little bit. Does anyone else agree that the Mick is quiet, or is it just XYZ being having bad ears? Because I think let's try this. Is that better? I think we're good. So if that's not too loud, yeah, maybe I changed the gain on my mic. I'm not really sure. Anyways, we're gonna talk about Bitcoin being a double bottom at 60K or not, and obviously we're gonna talk about a bunch of other coins that we spoke about last time and some new ones that I want to dive into. And I think with everything that's going around with AI and AI governance problems and the whole privacy narrative with, well, for example, the EU, the UK, Australia imposing all these ID restrictions on social media and everything. I think it's going to brew up a very interesting meta for crypto in general. And I also want to talk and end on why decentralization will probably win because of all these things going on. So I hope that's going to be interesting. I think we just start with some news though. Let's go to Cam. So KuCoin decided to start sponsoring this content. That's kind of cool. And what they've done for this month is they created a prize pool of 400k USDT that will be distributed to people who sign up and go kind of do and complete, let's say, games and incentives. And I think you can earn up to 10k in total per user. So the description is in the link below. And if you're interested, sign up. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. And then without further ado, I think let's dive into some charts first. So I think we're I kind of feel fucked on Bitcoin for a long time now because I've been like more wrong than right on it, and I can't seem to catch a break. So this kind of funnels into some, insecurity on trading Bitcoin itself. But on the other coins that I've been interested in, things have been quite fine. So let me just generally try to explain what happened before we can dive into what I think might happen next. So we had this breakout last time we spoke above the cloud, and the 79k level was pretty much where we should have kept it if we wanted to have upside. So we broke back down into that cloud, and then we got to 74, which I wrote on Twitter about that. That was my line in the sand. Like, back into the cloud at the support, had to come back up if we wanted to remain bullish. And it literally, the moment it lost the cloud, it just started puking really badly. And I don't think I've traded it afterwards until the sweep of the low here, which then, kind of set us up for a counter rally, but I'm not really sure if this is going to be the one, even though this is a double bottom for me. So I will just assume that this has, the potential to become the bottom. And for now, for me, the key level to regain, to be generally bullish on the higher time frame, is that 74 level. So if we can come back and test that, that is very positive for me. It means that we, first of all, negate the two levels above us. And after that, we still have to regain the cloud. But that's, I'm not really, like I said, there's always a bit of a insecurity creep when you, when there's things that don't really completely go your way. And that's fine, because that's part of trading. At the same time, when a market doesn't do what you expect it to do based on your system or anything else, there might be, reasons to, I don't know, trade elsewhere. So for me right now, this is a great signal. We swept the lows. I think in general, let me check. Here, there's a lot of open interest basically still in the machine here. So it has a potential to kind of create an inverse capitulation, because all of this, generally we would think that these are shorts, because the funding has been quite negative during this entire consolidation, during this range. And all that OI is still quite present. Like some of it evaporated during this dive down, but most of it that we regained after the big February crash is still in there. So we're probably good if funding doesn't go too positive and we see like a kind of squeeze on that. So that's our baseline for the rest of crypto, I guess. And then I'm honestly quite happy to see what's going on with ETH, because ETH BTC, and I know not a lot of people actually still, use these BTC charts, but to me it's a very very clean kind of wedge setup, right? So you have this impulse, which is a clear first wave, then a consolidation, second wave, another consolidation, third wave. So it's like 5 waves here into a key level, key FIP level right here. And then on top of this level to the left. So to me, the fact that we're having a reaction here and we're coming off the third touch of the wedge gives me a good feeling about this being able to actually break to the upside and see a continuation, right? So for sure we have a range, which is now defined by the last high. But even if this is a counter trend rally on the bigger kind of downtrend, you have one impulse followed by a consolidation or like correction to the downside. So even if it's not going to be like a full bull trend to the upside, it might just be one move consolidation, one move, that's still a lot of upside, right? So to measure the bigger kind of potential where this could go, in my opinion, usually what happens is at least the 0.618. So that's our recent like high. But the next level that I would be very interested in is the 1 fib extension. And then if it's actually, you know, but borderline super bullish, it should get to the 1.618. So big time frame, we're talking about, you know, quite some upside if it's truly bullish, if we can actually leave the bear market behind. The conservative target for now to do business is at 0.0 full, right? And then the next level would be at 0.05, which aligns quite nicely with the low here from July 22. So there is there is a possibility, honestly, where this kind of wedge, and let me try and clean it up a little. Sometimes what happens is that instead of 5 waves in a wedge like this, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which I believe they call A, B, C, D, E. Sometimes you do get 7, so you get like F, G, like this. So that is a possibility, right? So I wouldn't bet the house on it, but we're getting a really good reaction, and the chances that it does the extra move down are probably slimmer. And I guess it depends on what Bitcoin does, right? So I think I posted on Twitter being long from 1620 on the USD pair. And actually it's not very complicated. Like, you're in an area where you've seen 2 massive rallies, right? Right here and right there. So usually there must be some kind of reaction here. And whether that's going to be as big as we've seen in 24 and 25, I don't know. Like, but for sure, you know, it swept the low, reclaimed the low. It tried to like lose the low and reject it, but then it didn't really actually retest it. It kind of like also didn't really come back down. So it is like this kind of place where you would at least expect it to come back and test the 2000 level, where we had basically the sailor sell-off start. So I would say that that's the intermediate target for now until next week, and we'll probably have to revise later. But the obvious answer would be to put it around the previous range high where we came from, essentially. So I think ETH is quite bullish here, and we probably have. Would be very nice if we could see a 30% rally in a couple of weeks there. And then I want to go to Zcash, and we'll later talk about the privacy narrative, like I said earlier. Zcash. It was quite a tricky trade, but, and this is, I need to go to the Coinbase ticker for a really short moment. If that works. No. Why are you? You know what? Let's do the Binance ticker, because I have this drawing here. But this is where we left our last stream, right? We talked about the Ichi settings for a rally, and then we pretty much captured the rally from, I think it was around, yeah, I'm pretty sure we were here and then it broke out the next day. So to clean that up, I think what what we've seen was kind of within the expectations, but quite a little bit more volatile to both sides. We had the completion of the cup. Now we have the completion of the handle right here. We swept the highs here. We came back into what I would have expected this to be the main kind of support, but then someone footed the shit out of it. So I came down quite low. Now, what do I think this is gonna turn out like long term? I think long term, this reminds me of Bitcoin in basically the crash around COVID. So if we go back here, we had a big retrace, then we had an echo rally, and then some consolidation, massive crash, and then the recovery into the bull market. And to me, that looks very similar on Zcash right now. Essentially, you had the bull market coming in, you had some kind of big correction here, then the echo rally, and now we've had the big crash, right? So I would expect this to consolidate. Like, it's not going to all-time high straight away. Either it's going to be like a slow bleed to the right and then a lot of upside. And because this kind of came early, like I would have expected this to go sideways if we didn't have the FUD, if we didn't have like the unlimited supply FUD. I would have expected this to go sideways and then have like the crash for some kind of reason and then continue the upside move. So it's very possible this bleeds down into the original level where I would have expected support, which is around $400, and then to move up. So this diagonal here probably is going to tell us a lot. We can see that it was resistance here. It has now reclaimed it. So my biggest expectation is that this would become kind of the path it's going to follow. So sideways, not doing not so much, go up, sweep the highs here, come back down, and then kind of ramp up for a very steep rally, like probably Q4 this year, right? So this is going to take some time to digest the whole thing with the crash and reaccumulation. There's a bunch of people who sold everything and they will try to get back into it, but they will try to do it slowly. And then there's a bunch of people who are probably scared and want to get out of it. So yeah, I mean, I see XYZ talk about Monero, and that's probably where we're gonna go next. I did sell Zcash. I did take profit, especially because it's been so volatile, and I don't think it's gonna move like a lot to a particular side. I think it's just gonna screw over a bunch of people trying to long the consolidation tops and bottoms until it actually starts moving. So I want to be sidelined and not to be attached too much to it. But the other one that we talked about last time is Monero. And the annoying thing about Monero that I mentioned back then was how these kind of consolidations that we're watching, like these kind of consolidations that are just a range, nothing is happening. There's no logic to be applied in what's happening here whatsoever. Like it's a freaking nightmare of a range that can last, I don't know, quite a long time, I would say. So we used the itchy cloud to say, okay, well, we're getting somewhere, because I've been watching this range for a long time, and I was like, okay, well, I want to have exposure, but like, at what point do I get that exposure? Because I don't want to sit here for 3 months, 5 months, going sideways, doing nothing. whilst other things are moving. So I remember saying that the fact that we got into the cloud here was probably the reason to start to get involved. And then we had, another month of nothing, which was quite annoying. But now we're seeing movement, and I think we're going to dive into that after charts, where I was just going to talk a little bit about narrative and how I'm going to try and find the new meta that we're going to be playing over the next couple of weeks, or at least like trying to figure out the narrative around it. Is where Monero and Zcash and a bunch of other coins fit in, and so that might be the catalyst that will help us break out of this, eternal sideways, which it seems it's doing right now. Another thing that I want to look at on the USD pair, and it's not super clean, but it's clean enough for me. Like, essentially the way I want to view this is that we had a very annoying similar range to the local range that we've been watching on the BTC pair for a long time, between like 2022 and 2025, which then started to move, right? So we can identify an impulsive kind of move by saying, okay, well, we have this move here, and then the consolidation, second move, sharp correction, and then the blow off top into a very sharp sell-off. So this is wave one, right? And then ideally, but I could be wrong on this, but if we look at the daily, the correction could have been simply this, like, because it was very sharp, very deep, this could be the only correction that's required, and then the reaccumulation started here, and then the second wave, so this was wave one, starting in April 2024 all the way to this January. This could become the next leg, and that would be quite insane, to be honest, because like if you want to measure these moves using Fibonacci, the way I would say it goes is, okay, so that's the length of the first move, and let's say that this is the start of the second move. It's gonna be at least, if it's a bullish trend, which I think it is, the target becomes $1,000, right? And quite possibly, usually the third wave is much more aggressive than the first wave, even though this was quite aggressive, to be honest. So bigger picture, this is obviously like, with this trend has been ongoing for a year, so it's going to take time to reach these kind of levels. But big picture, that's where I'd put it, where I'd be focusing on the long term, right? So short term is probably a bit easier. We have a bunch of trend lines that we came back into checking right here. It's finding kind of a support, and it's now reacting of the first move of the low. It's finding support on that high here. So if continuation is the most likely thing, it's at least going to try and get into some previous important highs. So this was an important high, this was an important high, that was an important high, but not super important because we went through it here and we came crashing back down here. But for sure, we're going to have some kind of reaction here. So my shorter term, if this thing finally starts firing up, which I really hope it does, because I sold a bunch of Zcash for Monero, I would say that the intermediate level to target is around $500. And the ultimate intermediate target, in my opinion, to take profit and kind of start reorganizing where to get, exposure again, would be around 680, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. but essentially fill in much of the. So if we're gonna compare this to what Bitcoin did and to what Bitcoin did in 2019 and what Zcash did more recently, right? Back in 2019, Bitcoin went to the 786 retracement level, and Zcash went a little bit higher, right? So, in my opinion, that is always a good measurement. In general, that's what's being taught in most books, anyways. And there you see that the level I have here, the 680 level, aligns with the fibs up there. And the reason why I have this level is because it's the 3-day highest close. So to me, that's a bit of confluence where I'd say, okay, well, that's probably where this thing is going to start retracing and prepare itself for the next push up, right? So possible retrace level around 500 back probably into, some old levels like here. We'll see when that happens. I don't want to like jump the gun on these kind of things because you never know, like maybe this goes higher, at which point you get structure in between that makes choices different. And then ultimately the 680 level is probably where I would start and wait. Kind of like the similar how Zcash right now is, it rallied quite a bit, and I want to like get out of it and not be too involved until we see enough consolidation and kind of evidence that things are gonna start moving around. And maybe it's almost time to go to the privacy and AI narrative, but the other coin that I think is two other coins that I think are going to do very well in this meta are Near and Hype. So for Hype, this was what we discussed last time, right? I essentially expected the market to rally in a new all-time high and then come back, but instead it is kind of finding support on the previous all-time high. So that's, in my opinion, super bullish and kind of changes how to trade it. I would be super keen if we would have gotten like 52, but it got front run. So I guess the moral of the story is that when an asset is doing very well and when a narrative around it is very strong, and it's going to be strong simply because, like with privacy and AI, you're going to end up with agents and people who are trying to look for unrestricted access. If governments are going to start cracking down more and more on freedom of your own money, and that makes these decentralized plays very, very important. So that is both the privacy story with Zcash and Monero, but it's also about having the infrastructure to actually transact and utilize AI and money and trading in a way that's unrestricted. So that's going to be, I'm pretty sure that's going to be the comeback story when crypto starts coming back, is going to be centered around these kind of narratives. And I'm actually super happy it's going to be centered around those pieces because, dude, that's like the cypherpunk dream where we take back control of our world. It was essentially why I got into Bitcoin in the first place. And then I was very interested in Ethereum in the beginning as well. But I think, hopefully we'll see some other solutions that can really give back control to the people. Let's see. Someone is saying, check the weekly chart. It bounced perfectly on a 53 level. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm stupid, right? Like I should have had that weekly level marked, and instead I was working off those daily levels here, and that's sometimes how you miss out. Like I didn't get my refill on hype, and then I just kept on running, right? Um, so lessons, always big lessons. Like, anyways, the whole Giga Rally 2027 still stands in my opinion. I think it's yeah, quite an easy narrative, right? Happens. It happens. Um yeah, and I think Solana probably bottomed as well. Like if Bitcoin bottomed, Solana bottomed. Um I'm not trading it right now, so I because I was gonna trade Solana because I was convinced that it was gonna outperform Ethereum, and then I just refused to trade it. And now I don't know whether I'm like making myself crazy because Ethereum's actually having a reaction, and then I'm just gonna ignore Solana, and then it's just gonna go on a fucking tear. So I probably have to like be reasonable and keep an eye on it. Um, it's to be honest, like this, this, this go below it, and if you then reclaim it, yeah, I mean it's going to that 138 level. Uh, I would, yeah, I think it would be stupid to not trade it, honestly. Like clean high here, clean breakdown here. If it reclaims, like if it reclaims 78, then I'm gonna be aggressive about it. That's But there's a lot of things moving right now. So I'm also kind of, I don't know if I want to like chase everything and get myself into that kind of stupid state where everything is moving and I want to be on everything, or whether I just want to like kind of keep it clean, because privacy coins, cool story. Um, yeah, I don't know. And then I don't like this is this is a this chart. There's so much right about this chart. This is one of the hottest charts out there right now. It's a double bottom. It's You can already tell that this wants to kind of like completely go back to these levels there, right? It's I think it's gonna do that. And I've seen these charts back in 2017, 2018 so many times, and this time it actually has like utility. It's a pretty it's a pretty neat protocol, and it's gonna form a W, and then probably double the W. So something like bigger time frame, huh? But something like that, straight onto the weekly high close there, more or less. So that's a pretty fucking cool chart in my opinion. And if you chart like the lower time frames, and I haven't even looked at the Ichi here, but I'm pretty sure if I turn on the Ichi, it's gonna look nice. But you have this kind of support here for a long time. Then it goes below it, rejects it, and then reclaims it, and then it retests it. So essentially, this chart screams that the downtrend is reverting, And yeah, like this is gonna go back to range high pretty soon. So this is just a stupid hold. Like basically, they're tied into the privacy narrative. They're tied into decentralized payments. They're tied into AI. They're tied into everything that I think is relevant at the moment, and that everything that could bring big like crypto back into the scene, and anything that will kind of resonate with all the people who traded AI stocks, who will eventually start, going back out on the risk curve, which means Bitcoin, which eventually means things like Near, Zcash, Monero, um, that kind of stuff, right? So fucking beautiful chart. Let's see if the Itchy has yeah, boy. Okay, so to talk Itchy, what I like here, and it's a weekly Itchy, so let it, take it with a grain of salt. It's gonna take a long time, but it's crossing it's crossing price, it's crossing the span, and it's regaining the levels here. So first order of business is the resistance of the cloud here, but then it's probably going to get into the cloud, and then the resistance is going to be let's say around $5. So I think this can double rather quickly in a couple of weeks time to $5. That's where I'd be interested in it to take some off the table. And then if it breaks above the cloud, hopefully it doesn't do the same shit as Bitcoin did last time. But then the next level is going to be up there. So it's going to take some time, but it can go quite fast, as you can see here. So probably around like Q4, $9. That makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe not as fast. Maybe we get stuck and then range, and then actually never get rejected by the range higher. I don't know. I don't know these things. Like I can't predict these things. I won't predict these things. But $5 looks like a solid target. Let's see. Yeah, I need to dive into Origin Trail a little bit more, Seb. I haven't looked at the chart for a while. I think they're doing quite some cool things, and I've heard people talk about it. There's a bunch of other protocols, like some smaller protocols that are doing a lot of cool stuff in, the mix of AI, compute, and that kind of stuff. But we'll get there. We'll have more live streams, and I don't want to talk about things without actually really having a good understanding. Like I could talk about Venice and Tao a little bit, but maybe we just need to do like a live stream where we kind of invite a bunch of people over and have a good discussion on which protocols currently in crypto have the ability to capture some of that AI interest and not be some shitty scam protocols, right? Let's see. How long are we running? 38 minutes. Okay. I think I'm gonna leave the charts here. There is not really much left for me. Like our oil story from last time worked out. We said that it was gonna go back to the lows. It did. So that story is over. The war is apparently over. They're gonna sign a deal, which we've heard a lot of times, but I think this time it's gonna be real. At least that's what the oil chart is telling us. And then, I mean, we're making new all-time highs. I think that ES needs to fucking take a breather to just go sideways. Get clammed between 7,300 and these two diagonal lines for just a little while. Just a little bit. Not because I think it's still gonna go to 8,200 by October. or it goes to 8200 like way sooner, and then it starts ranging like it pretty much did um, with the 6900 target, right? I expect the 6900 not as soon, no, 7300 not as soon, and then it got stopped by 6900, and then we ranged a little bit. I would assume before it can go higher to 8200, eventually it needs to rate this 7300 low here, and then it can go for the upside. So ideally it's capped around here, ranges, has some kind of sweep below here, and then goes there by well, October, right? So should I talk about Venice? It did such a crazy run. Like, okay, boy, I will have a look at the render, but don't expect magic from me. Like, I generally don't like charting stuff that people request because A, I don't know anything about it. B, I like generally to have kind of a bit of a narrative around things, like not purely just having a chart in front of me. What do you guys think about BitTensor? I want to switch the tempo a little bit. So a few things happened last week. The US government decided that they're going to put export controls on AI models, which is fucking funny. And the whole way that we're going to see AI being regulated is going to be a mess, right? It's like AI is this Great Manhattan Project. It's a very important tool for governments and military, the military industrial complex, to keep the lead in the world, keep dominance. So it's this strange thing where we somehow got like a military grade project or like development out in the open as some kind of like consumer product, which at the same time at the frontier is being treated like a military weapon, essentially. And it's kind of like, maybe I need to do like a big write up on this, but it's a giant mess because the government is going to try and control that in ways that are going to be very undemocratic. So anyone who can create ways to keep access into the pockets of normal humans who want to use it at the frontier is going to make a lot of money. And projects like Tau, projects like Venice, project like Near, they do it. I have a bunch of other seed investments that kind of work on how to govern AI and how to decentralize AI and keep access available in a more democratic way than essentially the U.S. government slapping like anything they want to control on. And then the other thing that's happening is that we're seeing social media being banned, and we're seeing the introduction of, central bank digital currencies, digital IDs being actually enforced into the fabric of society, whereas it was like a big fucking right-wing conspiracy thing. But the UK now is like saying, okay, well, we're doing a minor ban, like minors cannot go on social media, but then they start to create these exemptions where they allow certain platforms to give access to certain people. So essentially, as long as they can control the narrative, as long as they can control what's being said, they're fine with people having access. But if they don't, they're not fine with it. And essentially, they want to know everyone who's online and track their everything. So it's gonna start this movement where people really will try to, try protect their try to protect their privacy. And obviously, that's gonna lead to things like KYC on AI. And I think in general, good decentralized dexes, decentralized platforms, we're going to see more hacks on protocols like abandoned crypto protocols. I think that crypto protocols that are actively maintained won't suffer from AI hacks that much because they're also using the AI to strengthen and harden the protocols. But everything that's not not well funded, everything that's not well maintained is eventually going to get hacked, right? So that's also going to create a demand for privacy coins and dexes to launder that money through, which is more reason for the narrative. And then we're going to try and find ways around AI KYC. So, local models, but they will still require some kind of like governance where, you can't use them to fucking blow up a country. I mean, that's the hard discussion. I don't know. Like, what do you think is ethical? Like, should all AI be completely uncontrolled, or should there be some kind of governance that kind of has a like a kill switch into the AI, into the hardware layer that it runs on, or any other kind of way to shut it down when when it's used for something that's completely, counterproductive to humanity? It's an interesting question, and I don't necessarily have the answer, but yeah, I think you need to read this tweet I wrote as well. So essentially, where things are going is that AI governance will have to be implemented with decentralized systems that apply it from the hardware layer to the accounting layer to the application layer, with each layer having their own respective levels of governance applied. And eventually, these decentralized systems will be used by nation states, corporate, small businesses who will have to figure out how to give people and humans access to that AI and how to work with that AI. And logically, I think crypto is the only way to do it because everything else is corporate shareholders, which eventually will almost always choose for the money and not what's good long term. So they could choose for short-term greed, but that will eventually bite them in the ass. Whereas a decentralized protocol that can actually incentivize the long term will eventually survive, right? And make the money. Just like chimps can control humans. Yeah, that's a fair point. Depends. Like as long as we can control the hardware layer, then we can keep that control. But obviously, if there's a rogue robot which then controls the hardware layer, I don't know what happens. Like there's a lot of science fiction about this topic, but we'll never know. Okay, well, I'm gonna I'm gonna look at render just because the guy asked, and after that I'll probably call it quits. It's been 49 minutes of streaming, and I'm just getting very my throat is getting sore from the talking, so it's probably time to chill it out. Render. Tell me something about this coin. Like, what does it do? What 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 am I supposed to feel when I look at this chart? Yeah, Seb, like I really hope Store is gonna get out of the gates at some point. It's I've looked at a lot of different approaches on the AI governance, and I still think that Chris has the best solution out there. But he's also trying to get it to the point of correctness and complexity where it becomes really hard to get it out of the gate. But I think he's on the right track on fixing it. Okay, so without knowing what the fuck render is, um, yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, what would be the fundamental reason for this thing to go up? I mean, it's not dead, but okay. So it's range bound, and to be honest, if it can reclaim, what's this level? If it can reclaim 2.5, like properly reclaim it, like go above it and retest the level, then it has a chance to come and test the cloud. But that cloud is looking horrendous. If it can get it inside the cloud, that then there's a lot of upside on the long term. I would say then it can go back to $7. But I wouldn't be super interested in it until like it actually reclaims $2.5 and retests it, like and bounces, and then it already has then it already bounced quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know if I'm a catalyst against perfectionism. I'm just really trying to make sure that he doesn't get off track, and then obviously it's like I'm talking to a wall, and so we'll see how things will go for Store. I'm very excited about all the research that's going on in there. It just needs to be treated as a investment as well, not just as a research lab. I'm not really sure what to say here, dudes. I'm gonna call it a day. I think the market is starting to really nicely heat up. I'm really excited for Monero actually after having exited Zcash, and then I'm pretty excited about ETH, because if ETH can actually start gaining levels, we're not just dealing with Bitcoin going up, or we're talking about broader interest into alts as well, which could probably propel things like Near and Hype a lot further. Especially Hype, because higher Bitcoin price, higher crypto prices are also good for that for dexes. Cool. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm gonna stop streaming. Catch you next week. Let's see if I have an outro ready. Yeah, I do. Boom. I'll try to do next Sunday, and if not possible, it will be a Monday again, but probably Sunday. So cheers, thanks for watching, and big shout out to KuCoin, and please check out the description below, because if you join my campaign event, you can get a bunch of very cool stuff.